To the board, remember to speak to the microphone and to look at the microphone as you're speaking. If we go like this, you won't be able to hear, right?
Online, they won't.
Also, members of the audience, when you wish to speak and are recognized, come up to that microphone, state your name, and say what you wish to say. The same would be true of those online. Please state your name at least the first time, because our minute taker finds that essential. Any questions on those protocols? Okay. First item, public hearing on the proposed sale of property. 18 Depot Street, the former ambulance building, and 25 Union Street, the former fire station. We have two notes here. We have material from, or do they wish to speak? The Heritage Commission recommendations?
There's material in your packet. Meredith, I don't know if you want to speak on behalf of the Heritage Commission?
You all know me. The Heritage Commission has been talking about the depot for a very long time. It's an important building in many ways. It's one of 3 remaining train depots on the line between Concord and Lebanon. And it's, okay, sorry about that. We would really like to see it preserved and put to good use, to something worthwhile, not to just become a dusty relic that's preserved, but a living, breathing 21st century building, but maintaining its character as a train depot. I believe you have a statement or a letter from Andrew Cushing, who's president of the Mascoma Valley Preservation, in support of preservation of the building. I would hope and urge you to, when you do sell the building, to hopefully sell it with an RFP rather than just an open, go to the highest bidder. Many years ago, there's an example of this. When we sold, the town had taken 18 High Street for taxes, and the 3 years that you have to hold on to a building after you take it for taxes had expired, and the town wanted to get rid of it. It was reported to be an old schoolhouse. I went to the then town manager and urged her, they were going to tear it down to the tune of $6,000. I urged her to sell it under an RFP instead of just tearing it down and saving that $6,000. Don Roberts proposed that he purchase the building and restore and renovate it, which he did. And you now have a lovely house at 18 High Street that would otherwise have been, I don't know, just a vacant lot. So it was a win-win situation. So I hope that you will strongly consider a sale under RFP, and also consider putting certain restrictions in the deed, or I don't know how, restriction is a bad word, urging renovation as much as possible back to the original character of the building.
Thank you, Meredith. Are there other people who wish to speak on this particular building and this particular topic?
Hold on, John. If we're going to open the public hearing, we need to have a motion to open the public.
I move that we open to a public hearing.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Ed. Sir in the back.
I'm Don Moyer. I'm Vice President of the Friends of the Northern Rail Trail, and I lead the maintenance team for our 55 miles of the 59-mile trail. We're responsible for Bosco until Lebanon Town City Line, and City of Lebanon maintains the. Our primary responsibility is to maintain the safety and enjoyable nature of the Northern Rail Trail, but keeping the history of the Northern Railroad is every bit important. At its peak, there were 20 railroad stations from Concord to Lebanon. That would have been like late 1800s, early 1900s. Today, there's only 3 buildings left standing. There's the Garish Depot in Boscawen, which is standing but in tough shape. Beautifully restored Potter Place in Andover. And there's this station, which is, again, has been maintained. The rail side of the building is every bit the same as the 1907 photographs that I have, postcards from 19. This is an important piece of New Hampshire Railroad history. We have to do everything.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Dean Patton, I'm just want to get some further clarification about the depot building and where are we at with the land underneath that building?
I'd ask the town manager to speak to that.
So in the multiple discussions that we've had at the select board level, we're moving forward. The state still owns the land, and we.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that,
Ed?
the end of it, Ed?
The state owns the land,
Right.
and we own the building.
Right, but I'm just wondering how we're selling the building if we don't own the land? Like, where are we at with that process?
The select board decided not to try to buy the land, so that's where we're sitting right now. So we're
So-
looking at the possibility of selling the building.
Okay, so will that mean that the person purchasing that building will need to move that building, or just not clear about how that's going to work?
That would be up to them in the state of New Hampshire.
Okay.
Yes.
Susan Brown, 15 Depot Street. I think I qualify as a butter. As far as I know, and some of this you probably all know too, the town owns Depot Street to my southwest property marker. And the state owns Depot Street the rest of the way, and the town maintains it. I bought my house. Nobody told me that I didn't own my front yard, that the state owned my front yard. It took 3 years and a considerable sum of money, and now I own my front yard. I am next door to the beautifully restored station master's house. When the depot was put there, I don't know where the station master lived, but I know in about 1925, Angus, they gave him a piece of land, and there is a beautifully restored craftsman bungalow at the end of Depot Street where I guess there used to be a movie theater. Anyway, that depot and that house are a pair, and they need to remain a pair. And I do know from talking to Lou Barker, all the paperwork that says what Depot Street is from the end, and the land under the depot. And at one point I heard he thought they ought to move the depot back from the rail trail, and I thought, oh my God. Anyway, you got a real mess in front of you, and I hope you will let Angus solve it, and we will remain where we are. And I have a big map if anybody wants to see it. Here, my.
Angus, since you've been mentioned, perhaps it makes sense for you to come next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angus DeRocher. I live at 19 Depot Street. In the bungalow Susan was talking about, I have started the process with the State Department of Transportation that owns the land under the depot, trying to buy it as an abutter. And I am at the very early stages of that process. I would love to be able to combine the land and the depot, my house, and I think I've talked at a earlier select board. I'd love to be able to open up the depot to classes and co-working spaces, offer a bunch of tools and stuff for bikes on the rail trail and snowmobiles, and be able to hold classes teaching computer skills. I'm a software engineer by trade, and other classes that people would want to offer. I've tried to stay in contact with Ed and a handful of people when anything changes with the state, which hasn't, although something changed today. And I'm basically who finally sent the steps I need to take to formally request buying the land, which I was able to do. Meeting started today, and send off to my office to double check. That will move forward. And I am definitely in favor of an RFP process.
Thank you very much. Doctor?
You guys are taller than I am. I'm Dave Buffet, Maple Street, and involved with monitoring and maintaining this section of the rail trail. My understanding is that there is at least some significant concern about contamination of the soil of the land underneath that building and around that building. What is the current status of that?
Thank you. Ed, do we have any word on that?
Well, I would say, first off, there's not significant concern, but there was concern with it being an oil depot that transferred oil, that there may have been some leakage out front. No one knows if there was or not. That was part of our process with the state. We'd ask multiple times if we could get that tested, and that's when they pretty much just stopped talking to us. And that was the town's concern. We didn't want to buy something and have oil contamination, and now it's the town's problem that we wanted to test it before we bought it.
Adam, I think your offer is a good one, but I sure wouldn't want to buy contaminated land.
Yes, sir.
Hello, I am Brian Degna. I'm a resident of Enfield. Not here, I'm a professor, not in. And one of the things I've come across looking at how things, I've never seen places where the buildings were not on property that people, I see it, great extent is. As Mr. Buffet sees it, it's kind of a wild card. It's like a really weird fortune cookie. I say you should make it as easy as possible for ever to get the building, because then they have to get the land. The land's their problem. I do not want to see Enfield have to pay for mediation on any form. And part of that would be if there are things for historical rates, if you start giving conditions on a purchase, suddenly these can all trickle back. There's a lot of legal precedent in New Hampshire specifically for this. So I think Angus would be a great steward, but mostly as a resident who pays a lot of taxes here, relatively speaking, I'm mostly concerned about not having a surprise. Surprises are bad. So that is my take on it.
Thank you very much. Yes?
One sentence. Susan Brown, I understand that Coda, the oil company, put in a concrete floor, I guess on top of the wood floor. So I don't see how any oil could get underneath. I do know there's a lot of water there, but I don't think there will be much. I don't think there's any hazmat.
The issue was outside where they parked the trucks, not inside. The issue was outside where they parked the trucks, not inside.
Yes.
Kirk Gotthardts. My question is, if the building is sold and the land is still owned by the state, then the purchaser of the building negotiates with the state and buys the lands, the whole lot, not just the footprints, but the whole lot that's owned by the state there. What happens to the public parking that the town is currently using?
Angus?
None of this is formalized, but as part of the draft application I made to the state, I spelled out my intent to hopefully turn the west side of the building into 2 lanes of parking, so that it would actually hopefully afford 14 parking spaces on the west side of the building. That should increase overall the amount of parking spaces there. So if this isn't particularly germane to the conversation, but if I were able to acquire the land, I'd make sure the town had.
Thank you very much.
John, I can jump in a little bit. I mean, if we do an open RFP process, those are the things that we can either reiterate that we want to keep or analyze in the RFPs that come in. That, you know, as Angus said, if he was going to do it, his proposal would be that some of the parking would be made available for public parking. Other people that put an RFP may not, and that's something that the select board could look at on who they wanted to accept a proposal from. So if they decided to go the RFP process, that's one of the way they could do it. This meeting tonight is just about that. Should we sell it? Should we not sell it? Should we do an RFP process? Should we just put it on the market? What are the ways that people would like to see this done if we decide to do it?
I'd love to hear from some people who haven't spoken yet.
Hi, my name is Judith Kushner. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I'm a member of Mascoma Valley Preservation. And I just want to say this is a really good opportunity for the town of Enfield to be proactive and do an RFP so that you get what you want in your town. And the historical aspect is valuable in dollars and cents as well as the historical value that keeps people interested in your town. So I just wanted to say that and hope that you go for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Meredith?
I'll be brief, just 2 things. We have 2 new successful businesses in town. They're both in old buildings. I think it attracts tourists and it's a win-win. The other thing I wanted to say about parking, at a recent EVA event, Kim Quirk spoke up and said, I've got plenty of parking behind my building that doesn't get used. Maybe we could talk to Kim about some kind of an arrangement. And she does have a lot of parking there behind 78 Main Street.
Thank you. Yes.
I'd like to put one note on one of those businesses that's downtown. How does this thing work? I would like to put one note, Brian Degnan, hi, on one of those businesses downtown. Due to all of the bureaucracy that was thrown at me, I walked away from it. I sold it for nothing after investing a lot of money. So if you're going to have someone walk into your town and throw, I don't know, $250,000 at it, you should let them do it. That means letting them do it, right? And so one of the things that people, oh, there's this building, a lot of that is because I basically sold it for nothing to see it happen. So I hope with Angus's building, whoever gets it, that people invest in it because I know he is of means and I am of means. And, you know, we can put things on the RFP, but I don't know what that building looked like. Did it used to have a slate roof? I don't know. Did it? We can put it back to how you want it. I happen to have a slate roofing company, right? We can pave it. We can do that. But my biggest concern is always these weird hooks. If you go and listen to the zoning exception, people were complaining about fonts. right? I don't want this to be lost in minutia. You should make sure it's easy to do whatever you want to do, because for me, things should be on the tax rolls. RFPs, great, fine. Put it on the tax rolls, right? And let people then do stuff. Don't stand in the way and be like, oh, it has to look like this or this. You can do it better. You can make it good. History is important, but you don't want history to stop you from doing something cool with it, right? I mean, that's my point of view. I wasn't around in Enfield in the 70s. I have no recollection. I wasn't even born, right? So people looking into the past, right? That past is gone. Sure, it looks good. We can go and restore it. So in the RFP, when you put it forward, make sure if you want stuff, fine, but don't get bogged down to minutia, or people who have money will walk away.
Thank you. Steve?
I'm Steve Patton. So it would be my intention that the town should sell this and be done with the building and not get involved whatsoever in some kind of remediation like we have on Shed Street. And I guess if Angus wants to buy this and make it look like when I used to ride it in the 50s, that'd be great.
Thank you.
And you have someone online.
We have people on the screen. Jeff?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Loud and clear. All right, great. I'm going to share my screen just so you can see. I did let's see here. Share. Let's see. Camera. Share. Let's see here if I can get this to work. Basically, I live at 33 Union Street. My name's Jeff Clayman. I spend a lot of time on the bike trail, and am very interested in railroad preservation. And I definitely am behind any kind of idea to kind of preserve the railroad history of the Northern Railroad. I prepared a document that kind of went into the fact that I think that the whole corridor, including the fire station, I think would probably be best served the town if the whole thing was actually turned into a sort of a park. A lot of urban areas in the U.S. have sort of a river walk, which attracts a lot of businesses and a lot of tourists. And I think that turning the fire station kind of depot into sort of a park / maker space or public space would allow the town to attract additional investment in terms of businesses, because people would want to come visit these things. My vision would be to turn it into sort of a community hub for children and families. Potentially, all along the bike trail, you could integrate play and art and the creative enterprises that have already come here. I think that with the expansion of the town, with the two large developments that are planned, both on Shed Street and also on Maple Street, I think that the town has to be proactive in putting away more land dedicated to free space. It's very difficult for children on Union Street to get over to Hughes Park. It's a long walk. It's across the river. And I think given that the population is likely to grow, there needs to be some kind of playground space on the other side of the river. And I think the fire station property, as well as the depot, which could be sort of a mixed use type property, could fit the bill and provide that. Could also provide, using the fire station as a park, could also provide additional parking. And I think the existing asphalt area at the fire station could be turned into parking and a play station. Kids are already playing on the property. Now that the fire station isn't there, they're riding bikes there and they're kind of taking it over. I think you could add bike racks. and it would be kind of an entry point into downtown Enfield where people could come and visit the businesses there, which will hopefully grow over town. I think my plan would involve removing the fire station, potentially preserving the tank or some of the original entities of the Hood Dairy that was there previously. Much of that building was built subsequent to the dairy, was not related to the dairy, and I think probably with this plan should probably just be taken down to give more space. And I think you could have a whole sort of an Enfield River walk with through the whole town, going down to the cut, even potentially going down to the dam. And the popularity, the way you could use art to kind of improve this is already demonstrated with these scarecrow displays that we have, which have attracted quite a bit of attention with fairly minimal effort. I think the tunnel underneath Shaker Hill Road could be turned into a managed public art space. Right now, it's just...
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
We do have a time limit here, so if you could come to an ending.
Sure, I could. So anyway, I would propose that the whole space be turned into sort of a public park instead of it being sold off. You know, if there were interested people who wanted to say, you know, if you had an RFP that would sort of turn the depot building into sort of a maker space or public space that could be managed, I think that would be fantastic. But I think that we really need to put away more space for recreation because the town is about to go through a massive growth phase that it has never seen before. And if we don't put away public space now, there'll be nothing left in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last chance, folks. Yes.
Hi, my name is Lydia Foxall. I'm the board treasurer for Mascoma Valley Preservation. I'm in favor of preferably an RFP process for this building. I'm originally from Canaan. I left and I came back. I was never a preservationist, and Andrew Cushing, our president, got me involved because it made me realize that the heart and soul of the towns that we love so much here are our historic buildings. And I think that I used to think that historic buildings had to be restored to their original state and could only serve for their original form. And really what I've learned is that these buildings have the opportunity to create spaces for classes or host meetings. And I think that an RFP process could be simple. And if you look at the language that Andrew included in his letter, there's really simple ways to just keep it simple and effective while preserving what the town's interests are along with the history for the building. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Jean?
Jean Patton. I just want to say, being on the budget committee, I can tell you I really feel we need the revenue. We have plenty of open space, and I'm sure if Jim Taylor was sitting here, he'd be pulling his hair out to think that we were going to create another park. So I'm all for creating revenue.
Thank you. Okay. Comments from the board at this point? Move forward.
I want to thank the audience for coming. I didn't hear very much as a thought with regard to the old fire station. Are there any thoughts here as to what that property ought to be, should it be sold?
Good question. Sir.
Good evening. My name is Tom Gilligan. I live in Lebanon, but I'm representing the Enfield Mascoma Lions Club. So the club itself has an interest in that fire station building. We'd encourage an RFP process where considerations are given to a nonprofit as well. So specifically, I know the club is looking at storage for its wagon and trailer. Parking issue discussed could be open for public parking. And that location is an ideal structure given what it was designed for. And that would also serve the public good if nonprofit was.
Thank you. I guess we're on to the fire station. Yes.
Like everything else, I feel like it should be on the tax rolls. So I mean, if you want parking, there's plenty of spaces for parking that aren't a prime space downtown. You can put a nice RFP to it, have a nice private developer, make a couple high-end condos. There's lots of people out of the hospital who are looking for places to live. You know, Kelleher did well with those apartments. Like they were all across from George's. They were all spoken for well before he was done building them. So from my point of view, get it back on the tax rolls and put an RFP if you want to have it, you know, be something useful to the town. The town manager has a pretty good feel for it's useful to the town. I don't know if it's useful for the town, but being on the tax rolls is definitely useful for the town.
Thank you. Your thoughts on the sale of the firehouse? Up?
Sue Young. I have a question. When I toured the firehouse, when we had a facilities open house, the fire chief talked a little bit about the asbestos and all the contaminated materials that the firefighters brought back to the building after a fire. And since it's been a fire station for quite a few years, has there been any study of what might be in that building or in that ground, and how would that impact a sale if we decided to go ahead and sell the building?
Of course, before it was a fire station, it was a Hood's Creamery. Do we have any information?
No, I would just say from my 18 years in the fire service, the carcinogens and stuff that would come back from a fire scene could easily be cleaned up and through the construction process would not be there. So it's not like petroleum contaminated soils or asbestos wrapped pipes, those types of things. But, you know, it's definitely something that someone going in should know that it was a fire station.
Yes.
Karen Buffet, Enfield, just a consideration, please. Yes, I want our taxes to be less. However, I also, looking ahead, want to support the Lions Club in this community. I want to support organizations in this community that are nonprofit, that do for our community. I was a little surprised, and Ed, I need information from you. I was told that the old police station was, a lease was given to the food, what's the food organization in town?
Friends of Mascoma?
Friends of Mascoma. And I have nothing against Friends of Mascoma, but I was told that they were given a lease for 15 years for $1. That could be totally wrong. Can you help me?
There's no long-term time limit, but they came to the select board and were allowed to use that property. So we did it through actually it's just an occupancy agreement.
And that at the end of 15 years, they have right of
There's no
first-
15-year.
Oh, okay.
They're just allowed to use it right now.
All right. Well, I guess what I would ask you to consider is I have nothing against that organization. We know how many people need food. You know, I'm all for it. But I'm for organizations in town that help the town. And how can buildings be multi-purpose? I don't know what the Lions Club needs, and maybe they don't need this building, maybe they do. That's up to other people to decide. But how could they be supported in this community, whether to purchase a building that they say they need or to use multi-use space that something in the police station can get worked out? I don't know. I'm just saying, please let's open our eyes to all of our organizations, not just some. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, could you be more specific what portion of the police station Mascoma, Friends of Mascoma is using?
Yeah, Friends of Mascoma uses the bay and the booking room in the basement on the far side of the building. It's one small portion of that. I mean, I don't know how long, but the select board approved them moving in there as we're trying to decide what to do with that building and what to do.
Thank
for
you
the
very
long-
much.
John, could I speak on that for a second?
Certainly.
So I am one of the founding members and a director emeritus of the Friends of Mascoma Foundation. So I want you guys to understand that this wasn't a, big giveaway. This is something that existed in a closet behind the heater on these old wooden shelves downstairs with a little window. And it had largely Vienna sausages through largely the grace of the Lions Club. And Friends of Mascoma brought in a lot of resources and changed it significantly. We as a town are obligated to help pay for people who are either indigent or cannot afford food, so they're experiencing food insecurity. So while it may seem like this is a big, they're not paying for a lease, you're getting it back by not paying it out in taxes. So I think that's something I've worn multiple hats over the years. I'm no longer on that board. I'm tired. But I think, I agree with the notion that there should be offsets. I think also we need to remember the Lions Club has the space in the community building downstairs. They also have pretty dominant access to the pavilion. And so I guess if we were going to be considering organizations, who else is out there? And how many spaces do they get in the town? And what are they contributing back? Are they lowering the tax rate? Are they bringing in value some other way? I'm not saying they aren't, because I think the Lions Club does a great job, but certainly if we wanted to get into that, it's probably going to cost us some money.
Thank you. Certainly.
The only thing I would add to Kate is that 6 years ago, when we formed the Municipal Facilities Advisory Committee, which I was privileged to sit on, one of the very first principles we all decided upon and have stood by since is allowing Friends of Mascoma through the food pantry to be in that building. That's the anchor. Whatever we do with that building, and I hope a few of you will stick around after this hearing for an agenda item to discuss thoughts for that building. As far as I'm concerned, and I believe this Board of Select Persons are as well in agreement, that's an anchor to that building.
Steve Patton, you had your hand up.
Steve Patton. So tonight is the first I've heard of the Lions Club wanting the old fire station. I'm not against them using this because I think the Lions Club does a lot for the town. They essentially gave the town the, what's that building over there?
Municipal building?
Thank you very much. Essentially gave that to the town. And I think they do a lot for people in town who have little to nothing. And as far as any cleanup from asbestos or some such thing there, an engineer can go in there and scrape off the little pieces of this and that, send it in and make a report. This does not cost an arm and a leg. I was involved in a mobile home that only costs about, I think about $1,500, but you could ask my banker. Thanks.
Thank you.
Susan Brown. One of the biggest assets in Enfield is the rail trail. So we need to be very careful about what we do with those buildings. I thought that Mr. Clayman has something to say.
No.
Mr. Clayman?
Yes, hi. Yeah, no, I would just reiterate what I said before. I think, as I said, I think the projects that have already sort of been approved by the town that are in process are going to greatly increase the population. And I think your opportunities for preservation and to establish open space, which will make the town more livable later when it's a higher density population type place, those opportunities have to be taken now, well before any of this happens. And as I said, I think turning the rail trail, the downtown, all the way down to the cut with all the history that in that space, I think you have an opportunity to create sort of a river walk, which would be very attractive for people to come and visit and make Enfield a little more of a destination than it is now. And so I think if you squander this opportunity now, and you put a high density type structure there, which may ultimately wind up there, even if the Lions Club takes it over for a while, I think once you lose that opportunity, there'll be no going back.
Thank you. Okay, folks, last couple comments. The fire station. Jean?
Again, with my budget hat on, I say do an RFP and move along.
Thank you. Okay, motion to adjourn the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All righty.
I think we should be discussing it now. Well,
I would discuss it now.
Pardon? I can't.
I would discuss
I
it.
wanted to be able to take advantage of a few people being here to hear what their thoughts on the police station before we headed off discussing it.
I would prefer that we continue this discussion and not skip over it because I think people have given us a lot of really good information. I'd like to digest it as a board before we move on to another topic.
Okay. How do we feel, board? Discuss now or move on?
Let's discuss it now.
I say discuss now also.
John, you need to speak into your mic.
Thank you very much. Spent a lot of time thinking about those two buildings. Fire station sort of worries me. It is historically of great significance to many people. So many people who worked out of that station. And yet, it's old. And it's worn out. It really was a Hood's Creamery. According to my correspondence, Don Crate bought for $1. Worth every penny of it. So, I think that we should maximize its value. What that means, not entirely sure at this point. Maybe it means selling it. But if we sell the property, we have to try to get top dollar for it. If we don't sell the property, we have to make sure it is used in a way that is conducive to the values of the town, which may involve more than just one group. I don't know. So my mind is churning around with this.
Yeah, so I still think we should move forward with selling both properties. I think with Depot Street, there is significant historical preservational value, and using an RFP process to make sure that happens makes a lot of sense. And if we can do that without dealing with the state on the property below, that is even better, because then it's not our problem. On Union Street, I think that is a different case where, having been in the building several times, it's not very functional as it is, and selling it, it's also sort of one of the few sort of prime locations in town. I've got a lot of opinions on what it would be. I'm trying to put those aside. But I think selling that for value would make sense. And by value, I mean a mixture of sale price and long-term tax revenue, depending on what they were. Whether that is through an RFP or through just a straight-up sale through a real estate agent, I'm not sure. But I do think we should move forward with selling both.
I'm interested in exploring the option of the RFP with guardrails, I would call it, for Depot Street, but I'm not hearing the same level of interest from the town about putting those sort of guardrails for the Union Street RFP. So I guess I have less of an appetite for being restrictive or suggestive.
I agree with both sentiments as far as selling the Union Street Fire Station as well as Depot Street, the facility at Depot Street. I think an RFP on Depot Street is fine without putting restrictions on it. The intention is that we'd want an opportunity to review all proposals, and we could accept or reject accordingly. As far as Union Street is concerned and the fire station, that has a lot of possibilities for a developer to come in there. That's a decent-sized lot. John points out correctly that the value of the building is less than the location. So I don't think we need to have any restrictions on that necessarily. Serve the taxpayers best. I believe that should be liquidated at the highest possible value, and we'd be able to see what the developer could propose anyway before it went ahead.
I guess I'd like to strike a balance between what folks have given us for input. In terms of the depot, I think there's a lot of opportunity to pursue an RFP. I'm not interested in putting guardrails that are very strict into the RFP itself because it's an RFP. So I'd rather be open to some creativity and to give people some latitude, say, you know, I think that if we put too many guardrails in, we limit imagination. And if someone comes in and gives us something that is absolutely terrible, we're well within our legal rights as part of the RFP process to say no, thank you. So I'm very comfortable that we've done RFPs successfully in Enfield before. And I would like to see Depot go through that process and direct the town manager to write that RFP in line with some of the ones we've done in the past and leave it open. That doesn't mean we can't consider the input from the Heritage Commission or Mascoma Valley Preservation, but I don't feel that binding ourselves to excess guardrails at this early stage will help us. I think that will help us on the back end make our decision. In terms of Union Street, I think we could do an RFP, but I honestly think that could go out for commercial sale. It's not residential, and so we wouldn't be bound to the same real estate rules that you are when you buy a house. So we would also be able to say no thank you as a board, and again, do it without really strict guardrails, put it out, see what people, I will call out Lucky's Coffee Garage in Lebanon as one of those. You know, it was a kind of ugly old garage just sitting there, and it turned into something wonderful. We don't know what we're going to get. I guess for me to strike a balance between making the places useful and putting it on the tax rolls, I would want to see what people have for ideas. But I also want to be really mindful that MFAC, so the Municipal Facilities Advisory Committee, recommended these both for sale, and they did a lot of work, so I want to be mindful of that. I want to be mindful of the fact that we just undertook 2 very expensive projects, and you know, I applaud our voters for being forward-thinking, but also if we look at our strategic goals and what we are asked to do in this town, and we also consider the master plan, I think there's room for us to consider all of these things without making it cost more money. I am not in favor of the town undertaking any kind of public project that costs us money, so I'm not in favor of paying for extensive testing and cleanup. And I am a great lover of parks and have a long history in this town as being involved with Shaker Recreation Park back when I was a little kid. And I think we have a ton of open space in this town. Enfield is very safe and very walkable. I send my 11-year-old to walk around town, and I think that we could be doing some foot trails and we have some opportunity to tie things in, but I don't think we necessarily need to undertake a very expensive project. We just undertook a wonderful project at Lakeside Park, and maybe some publicity and connecting through information is an opportunity without spending a lot of money. That was a lot of words. I'm done.
Thank you very much. Any final comments from the board?
Take a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I would recommend 2 motions,
Oh, yeah.
one for each building.
I'll start. I will make a motion that the select board direct the town manager to draft an RFP for the Depot Street building.
Say that the last piece of that.
Depot Street building. I think
I'll
it's a
second this.
qualified executive, and he'll come with the draft, and if we don't like it, we'll tell him we don't like it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 It's unanimous. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we sell the Union Street Fire Station property through a commercial real estate or broker, and that we will then review anyone's offer for it as we can as the owner of a non-residential property. We will decide on the best purchaser at that time.
Does that, just for discussion, does that limit them to only commercial activity? Because that's certainly a prime mixed use.
No, I think we just sell it through a broker.
Yeah, I think, again, we don't need to make statements about it being commercial or not.
And I would add, I guess, as an aside, you can make an offer that's very small as a nonprofit, so it doesn't stop you from making an offer and us from reviewing it. This isn't we have to take the largest dollar amount, we have to take the best fit for this town.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Is unanimous. Thank you to everyone who came.
Thank you.
For all the ideas.
Way at it.
Do we want to move into the fire station or the police station while people are here? That's put.
Yes.
Without expressing our own opinions at this point, we'd like to hear whether anyone here has ideas for the police station. We have ideas. We have done some discussion among ourselves. I briefly mentioned a few minutes ago that I happen to believe Friends of Mascoma Food Pantry is an anchor in that building. That's my personal opinion. However, I'd like to hear what ideas people may have for that building. We have already concluded as a board that we will not be considering selling that building. We would like to hear people's ideas for the use of that facility.
Might be worth mentioning that I think unanimously we feel that building is part of the campus of the town. It is next to Whitney Hall. It is pretty close to the community center. It is a very central building, the workings of this town, we feel. Doctor.
Dave Buffet again. I don't know, there may be some restrictions in the gift by the Poulins of the property as well that I go back to. Sorry. I know I'm telling other people to use the mic correctly, and I'm not. There may be restrictions in the deed or the sale from the Poulins donation that need to be considered. But I think that some revenue needs to be generated to this, and the lease to the Friends of Mascoma, while certainly valid and useful to this community, only deals with a small part of that building. And I think if we aren't going to sell it, then we should rent it. There's great need for rental housing in this, affordable rental housing in this community. And I know generally communities don't like to be landlords, but there may be some way of finding an arrangement that could work for that and generate some revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, Brian Degnan. Interestingly, of all the buildings in town where I don't think they should go back in the tax rolls, that's one. That one should sit there because it's sitting there to buy all the parking, and in the future, you might actually not want that building, right? I mean, you could make it bigger. That's what I mean by that. It's the space that you have to expand as a town. One of the challenges you had with the fire station was finding a spot. Well, here you have a nice spot downtown. To that end, I think if you get all the aggregators together who are stakeholders, that's a fine place for them. All your nonprofits, right? The Friends of Mascoma have a place, other people have a place, and that's a great, I think that's what you should do with it. Also, longer term, on people talk about walking and things, I would love to see a bridge that goes from there to the rail trail. And I also at the end of Westcott, because I almost get hit walking down Livingston Lodge Road when I walk to Westcott every day. I could actually hop across the Mascoma River this summer. That was great, but a bridge would be better. So that would be my long-term goals for that place. But I think what you should do is what you're doing with it now. I think, but you should go and make sure all of your nonprofits, who I see are an excellent stakeholder there, and you know, Dr. McFay's not wrong. Maybe a little bit of revenue, at least the carrying cost, would be helpful. Nonprofits are good at getting money from people who have money. That's what they do. So keep that in mind.
Thank you. Yes.
Sue Young. We used to live in Hanover, and I was on the Hanover Rec Board for 12 years. And we started in a house, an old colonial house that had a family of skunks that lived in the basement, and it wasn't really very conducive to having gatherings, let's put it that way. But the point was that that was a rec center. The kids could walk there from the middle school, which was by the high school at the time. There were foosball games, there were pool tables, ping pong tables, and the middle school and high school kids had a place to go. I think we should take the police station and turn it into, leave the food pantry where it is, but turn it into a recreational center. Have the rec director on site in that building, buy a couple of foosballs, games, pool table, whatever. But it's a place for the kids to come after school. I realize that the library has a wonderful center room for the kids of this age, but not all kids want to play computer games, or they want to talk with their friends, they want to fool around, maybe toss a ball back and forth or whatnot. I think having it so centrally located with the grade school just up the hill, the buses coming through there, the ability for the kids, if they wanted to study, to go over to the library, just walk across the street. I think it's an ideal location. And at the moment, as far as I know, and my kids are all older, I don't think there is a place like that for the kids of the middle school age and high school age to go and just hang out with their friends and maybe get a little loud if need be. But that's my feeling, that we should utilize it for the youth of the town, not the nonprofits, not the adults, and not sell it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kurt?
Kurt Gotthard. I would like to thank you for taking off the table any consideration of selling the building and land, being abutting Whitney Hall. Some point in the future, you're going to want that property. And if there isn't a current town department that needs that space for use, I would suggest that it either be basically leased to either a for-profit or a nonprofit organization that has whatever terms you want for timeline, and then they can at least pay for the upkeep and maintenance of the building while they're using it. Now, whether it's the electricity and everything else is not on the town line item, basically. And there seems to be a lot of nonprofits in town that are looking for space, and it could be whatever fee you want to charge on an annual basis, but at least cover the operating expenses of the building.
Thank you, Kurt. Steve?
Steve Patton. So I didn't hear Dr. Buffet's question very well, but what I wondered was, does the polio steed to the town police department give any restrictions about for future use of the property beyond police?
That's a very good question.
Not aware of any, but that's something we can definitely look at as we're looking at use.
We will check that out. Dean?
Jean Patton. So I kind of have mixed emotions about this building, and I kind of hinge on Sue's comments about recreation, but then there's a part of me of my budget hat again. And I just feel like, you know, we're building all these new big buildings that are going to be more things will have to be taken care of eventually. And I just feel like we need some sort of mechanism to be able to keep up the things we're going to keep. So I'm sort of like, you know, yeah, it would be great for recreation, but I feel like it would be great to have some sort of income or revenue to help with the upkeep of that building. So, yeah, I'm just kind of mixed about it.
Thank you. Last chance. Thank you all very much. Thanks for coming. Thanks for supporting the town of Enfield. Okay. Next up on the agenda, the approval of minutes of September 22nd, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve as printed.
Is there a second? We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any thoughts for corrections? Here we go. Board reports. I'll start. I was looking at a pile of financial town papers about so thick, I threw them all in the recycling. But I have some general takeaways that I think are very important. There is on the board consensus that we want to avoid really major expenditures. We want to avoid big construction. We want to be conservative, cautious, and careful as we go through this budget process. A number of reasons. One, yes, we spent a lot of money last year. Taxpayers might be a little nervous. Secondly, we're not totally sure what's going to come down from the state. We feel they may not be done with their cost shifting and cost sliding. So we need to be cautious. There are a couple things that we talked about that really struck me, and one was, you know, we may need to hire a finance professional to go down the road, someone who's really good and well-trained in that. Have to look into that carefully. We may need to think about our human resources. In other words, the human resource department. Do we have enough there? One of the things that may have hurt us somewhat was the change of health insurance to the DPW. That may not have been presented carefully, cautiously enough. I don't know. Certainly, that seemed to be a source of anxiety. We may need to look into a recruiter for some of our staffing needs. Some outfit like MRI, which of course brought us Jack. Last name?
Wozmack.
I just want to clarify that the recruiter was for the finance position, not for all of our recruiting.
Okay, for the finance position. Thank you very much. Wozmack, who was our interim town manager, and he was fantastic. We're going to have an overlap of old and new hires, and that will add to expenses. Did I hear it could be $85,000 resulting from that overlap?
Yeah, it'll be somewhere right in that 80,000 if we overlap for 6
So, you know, these are all things that are sort of drifting out there, right, that we're trying to get a handle on. And we're, as a board, looking at it very carefully, we're looking at the numbers very carefully. And we are, I think, being fiscally, I'm not going to say conservative, but fiscally cautious. Thank you.
Yeah, so the planning board has had a couple of meetings since their last one, including a site visit to Laramie Farms and a continued hearing around Laramie Farms. Lots of it was really more around planning out the next few hearings. They're going to be bringing their experts, talk about specific subjects, which should be listed on the agenda as we go forward. But we're still at the starting of probably at least a 6-month process, is my guess. Also had one for Bark and Bevy, the new business that's going into the old Gusano's space, the formerly Mickey's before that. And they are approved now. And then a lot line adjustment, just moving walls to match what's actually on the ground. Lot lines on the wall. So.
I have no updates this meeting.
Tracy?
The Energy Committee looked carefully at the electrical rate structure that's available to the folks who live in town. We have 2 members of the Energy Committee who fortunately are on the board of Community Power, and therefore they have a close eye to what's happening as far as rate structures are concerned, and that's very good for the town. We also looked carefully at a possible or communication as far as an existing exemption is concerned. This is an exemption which was voted in several years ago for solar power, wind power, and wood. And we're looking at ways to communicate that to the public as well.
Thank you.
I have one more thing. Okay. Very briefly, the other committee that I sit on is the
EIP.
Thank you. And we've basically concluded our deliberations in a very conservative way this year, spending as little money as is possible, responding only to those requests that we feel are absolutely urgent. That presentation will be Thursday night to the Budget Committee for those people who may want to attend that, and there'd be a further explanation for those members of the Select Board that can't be at Thursday night's meeting later in the fall.
I was not able to attend the Conservation Commission meeting due to a prior commitment, but if it's okay with you guys, I will surely give you a quick update.
I have my agenda here to jog my memory. One of the things the Conservation Commission is working on is a school outreach program where we will collaborate with the Canaan Conservation Commission to do educational programs throughout the schools. And that's being worked on. At the Harvest Festival, we had a information table, and it was very well attended. There were 700 people who attended the Harvest Festival. And in November 7th, we're going to have a biochar presentation at the Enfield Shaker Museum in the Great Stone Dwelling. And we're working on having a winter presentation with New Hampshire Audubon. And let's see. And we're also working on garden collaboration with the town and museum. And we, quite a few of us went to the Laramie Farm site visit. We plan to keep in touch with all the meetings on Laramie Farm. And for things that are of interest to the parts of it that are of interest to the Conservation Commission that we may want to have some input on. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up we have the town manager's report.
Yes, thank you, John. Just to start on the $85,000 overlap we talked about for a finance director position to have for training for Elisa's future retirement next December, that does break down into salary and benefits. I just want people to understand that that's not just a salary figure, that's salary and all the benefits that go with it. With that, I'll continue on with my staff report. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we were looking for a light equipment operator. We have made an offer that's been accepted, and the new operator will be starting October 13th. We have completed the interview process with the assessing administrator for Julie's position, and we've working right now through making an offer to someone that we think will be good in that position. So we're hoping to have someone in place possibly prior to the month that we'd budgeted, and be able to have a good transition in that position as well. At the last meeting, I did give you guys an update on the deputy clerk position. We have received word that Daisy has decided to move on from her position as deputy clerk. So we will be looking for a new deputy clerk moving forward. She's accepted a position at the City of Lebanon. SRF loan update. Governor and Council on September 17th authorized the approval of our SRF loan for the water system. With good news, I'll go through the numbers if you guys, it's kind of hard when I'm just reading numbers, but the supplemental loan total was for $2,730,000. We did get, that breaks down into a supplemental loan of $2.53 million and then $200,000 for lead line replacement. We got a 60% forgiveness on the supplemental loan of $1.518 million, which leaves that $2.5 million loan to be a $1,012,000 loan. And then the lead service line loan of $200,000 came with a 66% principal forgiveness of $132,000, which leaves $68,000 left. So the total SRF loan after forgiveness comes out to $1,080,000. So just as we'd kind of hoped going into town meeting, we got really good forgiveness on that loan. And again, we're a little less than half of what we asked for. So at this point, the Marsh Well field pump house and interconnection of the new Marsh Wells are planned for 2026, and the water main replacement is planned for 2027. So moving that project forward. A little bit of, I'm just going to call it economic development news. A little over a week ago, I had the opportunity to go visit our new brewery, and just sitting there at night watching downtown, it was really, really striking to me to see the people that were over there. And then me and my wife wandered across the street to Kitchen 56 for dinner. When I was in Kitchen 56 on that side, the bar side was packed with people, and at least half of them had been at the brewery. So one of the things that I wondered as this was opening is, you know, are those two establishments going to be in competition? Are they going to be working together? And just seeing the amount of traffic floating back and forth across the street, the vibrancy was just really nice to see that there was a lot of people down there. So I just wanted to report that you know, we're starting to see some of that, and I got firsthand getting to watch people walk back and forth and visit both establishments. So that was great.
On cribbage night, which is a Thursday, I believe, that food was provided by Kitchen 56.
Yes. He has, and I think it's going to continue to grow, but he's struck a relationship with Kitchen 56 across the street, and then I know Enfield House of Pizza also makes pizzas for him. So it's a good little symbiotic relationship between the businesses here in town. Public safety building, just wanted to remind everybody that the open house is planned for next Saturday, October 11th from 12:30 to 2:30. We'll be gathering in the EOC for light refreshments, and members of the different departments will be taking small groups on tours through the building. They'll probably be leaving the EOC about every 5 minutes. You can make it there, it'd be great. In the beginning time frame, that 12:30 time frame, we'll be doing some sort of ceremony, ribbon cutting, just to welcome people. But if you can't make it till a little bit later, we'd be happy to show you the building and talk you through some of the things that went into that building. The Crystal Lake Road culvert that we talked about at the last meeting, just want to ensure the select board that this is being worked on. Since that meeting, DPW has met with the Horizon engineer that discussed options of what can be done to fix the culvert under the road. As you heard, they had reported to one of our citizens that we needed to go some long DES wetlands permitting. They do believe that they may have found a fix that doesn't need that extensive wetlands permit, but investigation with our engineer is still underway. So we are working on that. I've been by there myself. There's room to drive by. It's something that we need to work on, but just want to let you know that that is being worked on. And when I talked to Jim the next day, we already had an engineer scheduled to come look at that. Wanted to give a little bit of an update on the drought. I know that's causing a lot of concern here in town, and I'm going to say semi-rightfully so. It's been a pretty bad drought this year. I just want to ensure residents and the select board that we are taking steps to minimize the impact. And I want people to understand that our water system itself is doing well. It's currently handling the drought so far with no problems. Overall, our water levels in our wells have dropped very little. The prior wells have dropped almost none. It's pretty much immeasurable. And the Marsh well has dropped way less than it did in 2022. A big part of that reason is, I don't know if you guys remember, but we were having some well pump issues back then too. We were pumping a lot. I think I'm jumping around a little bit, but really what it is we're at a place right now with good well pumps, good wells, that we can run the wells, each of the wells, for 8 hours a day, giving them 16 hours of rest. We try to run them all at night if possible when electric rates are lower, which helps the overall cost. But with that, we're drawing less water out of each well, just having 2 wells. Another thing that we're really seeing, not only because of the water use restriction that we've asked people to implement, we have seen some impacts from that. In July of this year, we were using a little over 72,000 gallons per day. After the water restrictions this month, we're averaging 59,900, so a little over 12,000 gallons per day less. So people are listening, things are happening. I know some of the summer homes being vacated going into fall helped with that a little bit if they're right in the water district, which isn't a lot of them, but I'm sure there's some. Let me see what else we have here. The other thing that we really wanted to highlight to people is, I know there's been discussion on the development side and everything. Right now, we're using quite a bit less water than we used a few years ago. We believe there's a few things that are causing this. We were averaging somewhere in the 80 to 90,000 gallons per day. Now, Jim said over a longer time frame, we're closer to the 60,000 mark. So about 20,000 gallons a day less is what I would say. And we believe a lot of that is due to water-saving appliances and energy efficiency stuff that we have. We've had some demographic changes in town that may lend into that. And then we also believe that we have people that understand the need for water conservation, and there's a lot of that going on. So, between those 3 things, we're using less water now than we used a few years ago, I think. And then, we'll continue moving forward. We're looking at some other wells. There's a lot of variables in this issue, but from the drought standpoint, our wells are doing really good. We do understand that bedrock wells kind of delay the impact sometimes, but we believe if we get a decent snowfall over this winter, it was because of all the rain in the spring, the aquifers were fully charged going into this, and we think we'll recover well. If we have a very dry winter, I think that's something we're going to have to readdress coming out of wintertime. But that's where we're at on the drought right now. Just some quick overviews from the departments. The land use department held a special meeting work session last Wednesday to work on their New Hampshire HOP zoning ordinance updates. They're zeroing in on 3 new districts where the sewer and water footprint is located. The districts are the Enfield Downtown, Enfield Village District, and Enfield Route 4 District. And more information on those will be coming as they continue to work on those zoning changes. The town will be attending the Governor's Advisory Council on Intermodal Transportation hearing scheduled for October 21st at the Lebanon City Council Chambers. This hearing's where we can provide our feedback and disappointment. It's the Gasset hearing. If you guys heard about this, with the 10-year plan, the Dry Bridge Hill got removed from funding from Enfield, and the roundabout kind of engineering thing that had been talked about did not get funded, so it did not make it in. So again, on October 21st in the evening, I don't have the exact times here, but we can get that information out. We encourage the select board, staff will be attending, and we encourage residents to attend as well. And let the DOT personnel and elected personnel that are there understand the consequence of not funding these projects in our town.
And how will that meeting be presented?
The October 21st meeting is at the Lebanon City Council meeting, so it's an in-person meeting for you to go attend. The Enfield Zoning Board meets Tuesday, 10/14, for a hearing where the applicant's asking for more time to stay in an illegal camper. I think we talked about this a little bit, if I remember right, but we have a camper where some people are living, and they've been trying to find housing, and so they're going to ask for a zoning appeal or variance to be able to stay in that camper a little bit longer than our zoning allows. There's going to be an Enfield Home Creator Expo that's scheduled for Saturday, 10/18 at Whitney Hall from 9 a.m. to noon. This expo will have builders, architects, and bankers on hand. They'll be sharing their knowledge and designs for building ADUs and different types of housing in the area. So that's something you may want to come to. The Planning Board is scheduled to resume the Laramie Farms hearing on October 22nd. You heard about the site walk. I won't go into that too much. And then there's a lot going on in land use. October 22nd, again, in the evening, there'll be a site plan review for the future Enfield Power Equipment, the Bobcat of Enfield, located at 3 Hardy Road. The owner has another location where he runs a similar business, and he's excited to come to Enfield. Just want to let the select board know he will be connecting his building to our sewer system as required. And then one last thing, we've had a little bit of I'm going to call it zoning, building instructor, and police issue on King James Road. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but those 3 departments are working together on enforcement actions on that road. So if you do hear anything, feel free to contact me, but I do want to let people know that the building inspector, zoning administrator, and police chief are working together to take care of that issue. Public Safety Department, the Police Department was notified that they received the Highway Safety Patrol grants again for 2026, and these grants include traffic enforcement and speed, impaired driving, and distracted driving. So we'll be imparting those services this year on that grant. Deputy Chief Fry completed the initial assessment for our state accreditation. The assessment went well, and it will not be long until we move into the formal assessment process. So we're looking forward to getting that accreditation. The fire department will be participating in Fire Prevention Week this week, and on EVS they will do fire prevention at EVS on Friday, and one or a few lucky kids from the art contest will get a ride to school in the fire truck. So we love doing that event and happy to do it again this year. Quickly try to go through DPW. The sewer infiltration project should be completed as of the end of today. You may have seen them right here at the Four Corners doing some of their insulform lining some of our pipes. So we're happy to have that done. I am happy to report as well that with the I&I work completed and the drought, putting into that a little bit, wastewater treatment line in the sewer enterprise budget is trending towards plus or minus 98,000 under budget. So that project, along with the lack of water we've had, has really played a part in not treating a bunch of water that doesn't need to be treated. The water department is participating in a 2-month trial of a hydrant-based acoustic leak detection equipment. I won't go into too much detail there, but they're able to put some listening devices on some main hydrants around the town, and they'll be able to pinpoint within a few feet where some leaks are in our system and be able to fix those. So that again will help our water system. The truck that was ordered on the VW grant is almost complete, and we should have that by winter. And then the brine maker that you guys approved buying is being connected and being prepared for winter service right now. And then finally, recreation. The 4th annual Halloween trunk or treat will be Saturday, October 25th from 3 to 5 p.m. at Hughes Park. We've had many organizations, family, and school groups have signed up to volunteer and participate. I think we're going to have a good event this year. We're still encouraging people to contact Enfield Recreation to reserve a spot if they would like to provide a trunk or help out with this event. He is asking that you call or email Recreation so he can just keep a little better track of that. Didn't set up a registration through Rec Desk or anything, but there should be some information online. I talked to him about that. And then this weekend, we held a successful 3rd and 4th grade soccer jamboree at Shaker Recreation Area. Both boys and girls teams from Mascoma, Norwich, Lebanon, Lyme, Plainfield, and Hartford attended. And then preparation for youth basketball this winter has started. That's my town manager report.
Thank you.
I just put out a word of thanks to the Recreation Department for lining the parking lot at Shaker Rec. It is hugely different, and it is a wonderful thing to fit all those cars in there.
I'm going to say
or DPW, whoever did it.
Well, it's our little robot that we got that made it really easy to line those. It also made it easy in the jamboree. He actually painted a different size field in a different color and then repainted it to white like mid-jamboree, and was able to play a couple different games on the same field because we're able to do it so quickly now. So.
Very good, thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, next up, under business, first item is Mascoma Sailing Club concession agreement.
So as stated in your packet, in 2021, Jack was working on it. I found that in April 2022, the select board had authorized entering into agreement with the Mascoma Sailing Club. Through the help of Mr. Fontaine and the Sailing Club, I was able to bring that agreement back up. I did sign it based on the select board's original agreement and submitted it to the state, but in our final investigation, they were pretty critical on the 2 key points that I put in your packet for a new agreement. One was anti-discrimination, and one of them was just a kind of a strong termination agreement from the town. There was a termination agreement in the older one. I think there was kind of some loose language around anti-discrimination, but this one has it a little stronger. What my whole reason for presenting this is I want to be able to move forward and close out this grant as quickly as possible. So what I'm asking the board tonight is to look through that language, see if it's okay for you. The Sailing Club's going to be looking at it as well. And the only time we're going to implement this, put it in place and get it in, is if the state requires that new language to be in there. If they're okay with the agreement we already gave them, then we'll stand with the old concession agreement. But I want to be able to not have to wait for the next meeting or a couple meetings. So if you guys are okay with that, I'd like the approval to go ahead and sign on behalf of the town. But that's really all.
It mentions a map. I didn't see the map.
No, I can can put a map on there. But
I assume that the map does not include the actual boat launch. It includes just where they physically are.
I think it'll just show,
area
an
where they have their
outline of the
dinghies and
park
the.
where they're planning on storing their equipment.
The only other thing that I would like to see to make me comfortable is that in a couple of places, be written as non-motorized. I think it would be fair for the people that sail, without hurting them necessarily, that the things, for example, in the first paragraph where it says dinghies, that inserted non-motorized. Just wouldn't want to see that in a change of personnel years from now, they have motorized dinghies running out of there.
I don't think we need to get that technical with it. I mean, given the termination language, if there's a problem, there's a very clear termination. But also, I mean, then we're going to start arguing over whether somebody having an emergency motor on their sailboat is a motorized boat or a sailboat. And we just don't need to get into that conversation. They do a great job. They're big supporters of the park. And this language provides any protection the town would need should something come up.
Yes.
Again, Dave Buffet, Maple Street. I was on the Mascoma Lakeside Park Committee for a couple of years during the later part of the development of the park. And I'm also on the board of the sailing club and have been through this and joined with Kate McMullen, who I think had negotiated with the town, and Jack with the original agreement. The sailing club stores no motorized boats on that property. There are motors on some of the sailboats that are not in our domain, in our town domain. That's public water, and any temporary landing of emergency boats or transport boats for sailing races, for et cetera, are really transient. I mean, they're less than a couple of minutes. So I don't think you need to really get too nitpicky about any further motorized restrictions.
Thank you. Other comments from the board?
I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager or their designee to enter into the concession agreement with the Mascoma Sailing Club as presented at the October 6th, 2025 Select Board meeting, if needed.
Second.
There's a second. We have a motion and a second. All those in agreement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Grafton Pond Poll Petition.
So in your packet, you have a poll petition. This is very similar, except a lot bigger than the one we had for Klug Road not too long ago. There's multiple maps of where the power company would like to replace poles and add new poles around upon Grafton Pond Road. Moving into the right-of-way along the road is pretty much what they're doing here. I did talk with DPW, and the only concern I got from there was concerns we had around town and other places that the second poles are removed and not left there. So that is something that I can put in the agreement or what we write back to them to do, but I don't see a reason why we should not allow utility poles to go in to increase. I do believe this is for the fiber that's going in probably from New Hampshire Electric Co-op to make the poles a little sturdier, get them along the road where they're easier to service.
Need a motion on that or anything?
I would have a motion to approve it. So we can give them an approval from the select board. I know that's what they needed on one along Klug.
Are there any comments from the board? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the petition and poll license. Oh, boy. Thanks, guys.
Accepting it now.
Requested by Granite State Electric Company, doing business as Liberty Utilities and Consolidated Communications, as presented in tonight's meeting, contingent upon them removing their second poles within a time period to be designated by the town manager, their designee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Signify by
Aye.
Saying aye.
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 Unanimous, thank you. Auditor discussion.
You have a memo in your packet. This has been an ongoing issue here, but I did spend some time the last 2 weeks calling 4 of the 5 auditors that were on our list. I had a 5th auditor that was in Vermont that I wasn't even sure if they could do New Hampshire audits or not. So after I got the information from the New Hampshire auditors, I decided not to continue on talking to them, but kind of as we suspected, it appears that most of the ones that we sent direct emails did not get them. I think it's because of our .gov transition. They probably got caught in spam filters, those types of things. I was a little concerned with the one auditor that I used their online contact to get, and they still didn't get it. But ultimately, I got a hold of Tammy Webb from Bouchon Cloutier. I always mispronounce that, but she was actually the auditor that I worked with very closely in Claremont when I was city manager there, so we have a little bit of a relationship. We started talking through this. They've had some of the similar problems that other auditors have had, losing staff. They lost their administrator last April, and I don't know if they haven't been able to find someone or if they're just so busy they haven't been able to complete the process, but they still don't have an administrator to answer their phone. I actually tried to call their administrator 3 or 4 times, and it goes straight to a voicemail. That's when I called her directly, but ultimately she wanted to let me know that they would look at an RFP if we sent it, but she said they're being extremely selective on who they take on as clients. The one thing that she did say, and she wanted to make sure that I knew, was there was a huge shift in the auditing services in our area. And what it was is Melanson Heath kind of had some internal changes. They became Melanson, and then recently they've merged with a company called Markham LLP, which is a nationwide firm that does a lot of work in municipal audits and different financial services. What she said ultimately there is they made this transition, they were moving forward, and then they extremely raised their prices. She said some municipalities and other people that they've talked to, the price tripled on them that they were dealing with on auditing stuff. We had a pretty blunt heart-to-heart talk for a little while, and though we could become possibly new clients of hers, she said, again, they're being extremely selective, but she would recommend that if we have an auditor that's willing to continue to work with us, that now's not the time to be going out in the field trying to get a new auditor, that there's a chance if you walk away from yours trying to move to another one that you may end up without an auditor. So with that recommendation, I called Tim Green again to make sure that we were good to move forward with auditing services. At this time, he said he would be willing to do an audit contract for next year, and he would be willing to work with me on the internal control piece to do a review. I did tell him that I knew they were busy, so what I wanted to do, and something that I was planning on doing anyway, was get a lot better detail in writing of how our internal controls works, and then he would be able to review that and spot check as they do when they go through the auditing process to make sure that those internal controls are being followed. And then we could have discussions, and whether it's a memo to the board outside of the audit letter, or if it's in the audit letter, at least get some recommendations back to the board of what our internal controls are and whether they're being followed, and if he has any recommendations for changes. So with that, I'm coming to the board tonight to ask for permission to enter into a contract for next year with Robertson Green. I always say that wrong, but with Robertson Green for the 26 year to audit the 2025 books.
Do we have any idea what they might charge us?
Didn't get a number for them, but I'm guessing it's going to be very similar to what we did last year. If it's something way outside the box, I'll come back to you. But if it's within reason, close to what we have been being charged, then move forward with that. And they really haven't raised their prices the last few years, and he didn't expressly say that on the phone, so I would expect that it's within reason and similar to what they've been charged.
Other questions from the board? We have a motion.
Make a motion to authorize the town manager to work with Robertson Green to enter into a contract for auditing services for the 2025 financials and review of internal controls.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. Okay.
The reconciliation report, which we won't be necessarily discussing, it says that our adjustments have been made, and I assume that with this hand, they'll be able to quickly jump into it.
They've been working on it. They've been contacting us daily for different pieces of information, so we can tell right now that they're actively working on the 2024 audit.
Time to go. Someone's telling us something.
Don't have a motion.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It works at work.
So the next item on the agenda is resilience presentation. I'm inclined to kick that can down the road another 2 weeks, but I'm open.
We did that last time. Maybe we could speed through it.
I was going to say, I can go through it pretty quickly and be done.
Okay.
Let me join them. Do you guys want to do deed waivers? I'll get joined into the meeting, and then we can do that at the end.
I think we're going to need you for the deed waivers.
Huh?
I think we're going to need you for the deed waivers.
I'll be here.
They didn't come with a memo.
I don't
I can
need
talk.
to rush through the community resilience building station necessarily. The others think.
It's 12 short slides. I think we could probably do it.
I'm happy to do it tonight.
Oh my gosh. I'm happy to do it tonight.
There we go.
Okay.
We shall do it tonight. Okay. Thank you very much.
On the deed waivers, are these mobile homes?
The first one.
Yes, we have one of them that's mobile homes in the mobile home park. I have talked to them. We've done nothing formal, but they're interested in kind of the same deal we had before, where we mobile home and then we transfer it to them, and they'll.
I can't hear you.
There. So the one in the mobile home that we do have, I've talked with the Lakeside Cooperative, and they're interested in doing the same deal, I guess, that we've done in the past, where we take it, we sell it to them for $1, and then they deal with the mobile home from there. They are planning, if we do that, to put a new mobile home in its place and get it back on the tax rolls as quickly as possible. Then I have the one on Route 4A. I would like to maybe go in non-public at the end of this meeting. We don't have to do it right now, to have a discussion with the select board about that property, and then we can make a final decision on that one. But the other two, we do recommend that we take them and do not sign the deed waiver.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, I will try to speak louder. So after the mobile home one, we have two. I think there's two other properties on there. The Route 4A one, I would like to talk to the select board in non-public to explain what's going on there, and then we can make a final decision. The mobile home and the other property, I do believe we move forward in taking those by tax deed, and we do not sign the tax deed waivers for those.
Okay.
So we'll use our policy as we accepted it a few months ago with regard to the mobile home that's in Daniels Park.
Yes, we can do that after we take it, and like I said, I've spoken with them, and they're interested in moving forward through that process.
So we don't need to, right. Then you wanted to have a non-public meeting for the other two, or one of the other two?
Just the Route 4A property. 111 Route 4A, I believe it is.
1723.
1723. And for that one, you wanted to have a non-public?
Yes, I have some
And that's
personal
fine.
information.
Now, for the one that's at Rice Road, what was your thought on that one?
That we take it by tax deed. So really, these are coming to you to waive them if we don't want to take them. The mobile home and the one on Rice Road, we recommend that we do not enforce the waiver or don't sign a waiver not to take them. We go ahead and take them by tax deed.
You need a motion on that, I presume?
It wouldn't be a bad thing to do that, but really this was coming to you to see if you wanted to waive taking them by tax deed. So.
Need our signatures tonight on these documents.
Not the waiver forms.
So just so I'm clear, if we don't want to waive them, we will not sign them.
Yes.
All right.
We could make a motion to deny the waivers for properties located at 140 Rice Road, map 2, lot 52, and 22 Daniels Drive, map 14, lot 11-20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. I'll make a deal with you, Ed. We'll do resilience, and we'll forget about the Grafton County Courthouse project.
That's informational only anyway, isn't it? Yeah. So
There
there
we
was
go.
no discussion on that.
Go for it.
Trying to find the right one. Let me see if this is the right one. It's not. Son, I'm having trouble, so you might not get to see it. You know what? I'm not going to show it, which is bad, but I'm just going to talk through the slides in your packet.
Do you want me to cast it?
Can you share it? Yeah, let's share it as a PowerPoint, I guess.
It's the PDF.
Put it on PowerPoint and it's open on my computer, but it won't show it. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start. As you guys know, we did a resilience workshop. I do think it's important for the select board and public to know about that. We did share the document with the select board. Do you know if we put that on the website or not? Resilience. But we can get that on the website, but I just wanted to let people know. I'm going to say there was nothing really, really groundbreaking out of there. There was a few possible opportunities. A little crazy. Have Travis turn that time frame up. Anyway, just a quick overview. What is resilience? It's really that first square there, just the ability for a community to prepare and adapt and recover to different incidents. a lot of time we're talking about stormwater natural incidents, but it can also mean staffing changes, those types of things. Just being more and more resilient, something to think about. So we had a great meeting. We had a lot of people invited from different walks of life throughout the town. And then we also had some visiting partners outside of town, the Regional Planning Commission, trying to think who else. There was a lot of people from just around the area that came in to help us. The overall resilience building workshop on the slide number 4, they break it down into a lot of little boxes if you look at it. But overall, it's a SWOT analysis. So the whole point of this was to look at, what are Enfield's strengths, what are Enfield's weaknesses, and what can we do moving forward, and what things do we have to be concerned about. Overall, on slide 5, our hazards and challenges are flooding from our rivers, streams, stormwater runoff, extreme temperature changes, drought, stuff that we're seeing right now, landslides when we get a lot of rain, and infrastructure vulnerabilities, which I think Enfield's doing a really good job looking at bridges, culverts, roads, those types of things. So overall, those are what we're looking at. Slide 6, the strength and opportunities that we have. This town's doing a really good job. One of the things that came out from a lot of the people there was the strong municipal leadership. We did have the fire chief, police chief, Jim Taylor, myself, Rob was all in this meeting. So we were able to talk about some of the things that we've been doing in Enfield, even before my time with building up roads, again, looking at culverts, being proactive on our infrastructure. The new buildings that we put in place are helping with emergencies, those types of things as well. We've implemented through strategic planning and some other things, increased robust communications, as we talked about in the strategic plan. We've done Code Red. We've upgraded our website, social media, newsletter. So those are all good things. The biggest thing to me that really came out is the volunteerism and community support that we have here in Enfield. That's not always normal in every town. We have a great group of people that help support not only the staff here, but everything that goes on in Enfield. And then we have quite a bit of conserved lands and recreational assets along with our lakes. So recommendations to improve resilience is kind of what you would think they would be. Continued long-term vision and growth, volunteerism, participation in government. We're doing the Citizens Academy right now, and we're starting to see some payoffs from that and participation in a little bit more volunteerism on our boards. We're doing the watershed management plan. I didn't put that in my report, but that has been officially approved, and we've gotten the paperwork to start the loan process on the Crystal Lake watershed plan. And then, as you guys know, we're in the middle of working on the Mascoma watershed plan. Again, infrastructure improvements, I think that almost goes without saying. We often have discussions about roads, culverts, dams. If you miss any of those, come to the CIP meetings. They get discussed in detail there. And I think our DPW does a really good job at looking into the future of some of those problems and trying to make sure that they get fixed in a timely manner, but also in a fiscally responsible way, and looking for grants and in every way that they can help. Quality of life improvements, we talked about this some tonight with housing, affordable housing, recreation parks. Again, I think we do a great job with recreation and parks and outdoor space. Not that we can't always use more, but it's something that we continue to look at, and we have a lot of open space here. And then we've talked a lot at this level, at least, on health and safety and making sure we're keeping that forefront of everything that we do. It was one of our budget priorities this year to keep not only staff health and safety, but public health and safety at the forefront. And then emergency management. Continue communications, outreach, education, all the things, again, that we talked about in the strategic plans. I think seeing the same outcomes come out of this that came out of our strategic planning session and have come out of the multiple public meetings that we have it's just good to see that these things are building on each other. Next slide is priority actions. Slide in my own. So, again, this is a lot of the same stuff. I don't need to regurgitate this over and over. You have the slides in front of you. I think one of the big things is that second one, advocate for state and federal fair funding. As we come out of the building projects, that's one thing that I want to work on a little bit more, is just getting a little bit more involved in our state advocacy. I've had a lot of boots on the ground projects to do here, but I think just being there, working with our executive counselor, working with our legislators, and being in Concord maybe just a little more often during the legislative process would be good for the town. Other than that, I think we're doing a lot of that. We're expanding education. Like I said, we'll get this report online if you want to read through it. It's pretty lengthy. We're going to continue on infrastructure. We're going to continue watershed planning. Stormwater utility was brought up. I know we've talked about that a little bit at this board level. I think one of the things we need to be looking at from a planning board level and from a town level is our stormwater management. If we can do things at the planning board level to ask new people that are either new development or major change in their site plan to be able to start capturing some of their stormwater instead of putting it in our ditches for us to deal with. I think that'd be good. As I mentioned last time, I think stormwater utility is something that's hanging out there, but I don't know that the town wants to move into that until we look at some of those other areas where we may be able to do that with less impact to most of our residents. I think we really support green infrastructure, and I know the Conservation Commission's talked about this, and some other groups. We've brought some classes in to teach people how to build rain gardens and to create permeable surfaces. I think we keep doing that. Again, any way we can stop stormwater from running down the roads, it's a good thing for the town and the taxpayers of the town. We can go on to the next one. I think we're almost done there. So. Revitalize Main Street. I did send you guys a revisioning thing from Upper Valley Lake Sunapee Regional Planning and Beta Engineers, just looking at some options we may have along Main Street to make it a little more, give it a little more vitality and make it a little more pedestrian friendly. Again, I don't know that that's something we need to really dive into right now. Part of our strategic plan was to make plans for increased pedestrian safety, and we're looking into parking and some of those things. So I think from a staff standpoint and going through some of our other committees and discussion groups, we can start to use that plan to look at our planning to move forward. But some of their recommendations would come with a heavy price tag. Those weren't in there, but it was something that we're not ready to take on at this time, but something that we can be looking at for the future. I think balanced growth is important on that slide. We don't need to go back to it, but we have a lot of development stuff flurrying around. I know a lot of people are focused on the big development, the Laramie Farms, but I think I mentioned it last time, and Rob's talked about it a lot, that there's different size developers in his office almost every day. So looking at Enfield holistically and trying to have a balanced approach to growth is going to be important for us over the next couple of years, making sure that we're looking at the master plan, looking at our strategic plan, and balancing things as we move forward. Additional actions, and these are kind of a little far out there, but they're things that we can be looking at and doing. One thing we are working on is succession planning for municipal staff. We're at a point where we have a lot of staff with a lot of years of service in the town, a lot of history behind them, and that turnover is not going to be easy. So something we're starting right now, and it looks like it'll probably continue on and off over the next 5 years or so. Regional collaboration, that's something we have really been working on and will continue to work on. Improving preparedness, neighborhood level preparedness, that was something that really came out. You can think back to the neighborhood watch days, but things like that where we're teaching neighbors and people in our community to look out for their neighbors and the people around them. And again, encourage landowners for stormwater management and integrate resilience into zoning and capital improvement. Was that the last one? There was one big recommendation that came out. I must have skipped it somewhere.
It's like
Maybe it was key takeaways. Again, really resilience work going on. As you guys hear over and over, Edfield's leading the way with some of our proactive planning. We're starting to get state recognition for that. We have a very strong foundation, and I think a big thing that came out of this, speaking with the consultant and everybody, was just continuing the momentum. You know, if you stop talking about it and you stop thinking about it, the momentum's going to die, and then you're kind of starting over. Collaboration's big, so we'll continue working with our regional partners and then continue working with the select board. They had mentioned, if you guys read the report, I thought I put it in here somewhere, that there was some talk of a possible position in the future for a grant writer / PIO position. Though it would be nice, I would say, I don't think that position's needed in the town right now. It's something that we should keep out there and remember, but you know, as we're looking at being as fiscally conservative as possible coming out of these projects, I don't think that rises to the top of our needs right now. But with that, that was pretty much our resilience workshop. I think I mentioned it once before, but I'm happy to say that we submitted this this resilience workshop and what we did to the New Hampshire Municipal Association, and we will be working with Upper Valley Lake Sunapee Planning Commission and the consultant that we had to teach a resilience class at the upcoming NHMA conference. So, and that's my presentation.
Are there any questions?
No, I think it represents a lot of good work.
Motion to adjourn?
No. We have public comments, and then we should go into non-public.
That's right.
I'll make a motion that we enter into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, small c. Are we just going to the other room?
To say we can kick everybody out, or we can go to our
I
new
think we
room?
should just go to the other room.
Good.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
And yes.
In favor?
We got to go roll call on this one.
Aye.
Roll call.
Alice Kennedy, aye.
Eric, yes.
John, yes.
Tracy Young, yes.
Kate, yes.